What up, y'all? This is Patrick Hayes. In this video, what I want to talk about is media manipulation, mind control, and not letting simulations deceive us. Now, by simulations, what I'm talking about here is simulated value. So I'm going to be talking about what simulated value is. I want to talk about something called what I'm calling evolutionary attractors, and this is basically what is used to create simulated value. And then I'm going to talk about our obligations as both consumers and producers of content and media or goods and services in this world regarding this issue, so that we can actually be more sovereign as human beings and we can actually be spreading more good out in the world. Okay, so a good example is through the idea of candy. Now, candy is basically like a simulated fruit. It's simulating the value of fruit, but it isn't actually delivering the value. So you take fruit. Fruit is bright and colorful, and it's really, really sweet. And evolutionarily, we developed an attraction to fruit because it was something that had value. It had sustenance, gave us, dietary benefit. And so we developed this attraction to it. And it's even hardwired into us. We're attracted to the bright, colorful fruit and sweet things. Now, candy then came along and was created as a concentration of those evolutionary attractors. So it's even more sweet than fruit, and even the packaging is more colorful and stands out even more than fruit does. What it does is it gets in the way of the child's sense-making skills, because biologically they're attracted to the thing that evolutionarily their body's telling them they should be attracted to, which is sweetness and colorful, colors. And there's probably more factors to it than that too. But once they start eating the candy, it disrupts their taste buds, and they're no longer attracted to the fruit that actually has the substance. So you have a situation now where the children are attracted to and only interested in the simulated value. They're not actually interested in the natural value. Now, concentrating evolutionary attractors is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that's quite natural, just in the evolution of humanity. Meaning, people realize that when you speak with certain vocal inflections, you're going to draw more attention from people. So if you have something important to say, you might say it with intense vocal inflections so that people understand, the weight of what you're trying to explain. But that can also be manipulative too, where, a lot of commercials might, have these really intense vocal inflections, drawing everyone's attention and talking about how important this thing is, but it's actually really not that important. They're just simulating that in order to draw people's attention. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't use the concentration of evolutionary attractors, but what I am saying is that if they're going to be used in media, in your goods, sales, in marketing, or services or whatever it is, that it needs to be used to actually sell something or promote something that has tangible value. If it's being used in a way where it's just a simulation and it's just simulated value, then that's actually kind of like a form of black magic. Now, we're going to have to use it to a certain degree, especially when there's a lot of simulated values out there. If these simulated value items or media pieces are put out all over the place, then the only way to actually get true valuable content out there is to be able to compete with them in our ability to concentrate these evolutionary attractors, as I'm calling it. So I'm not saying we shouldn't use them, but I'm saying from a producer or a creator standpoint, it's our moral obligation to make sure that if we're using them, that we're actually delivering on the value that we're indicating that we're delivering on. So another example of how this works is through media. Now, we're attracted to things that are awe-inspiring in nature because there's something of tangible value behind that. Typically, or most notably, like spiritual value. So when you go to a waterfall or when you see a shooting star, these things are, they're awe-inspiring, and especially in ancient times, because we didn't have all these crazy loud lights and noises and musics that were really awe-inspiring. Those were like the most awe-inspiring things that we would see. We would see a waterfall and it would be like uplifting and amazing for us because it had this tangible spiritual value. And we can even point at some of the scientifically discovered values of waterfalls. One being that it produces a bunch of negative ions, and negative ions rebalance your body. So our attraction to things like waterfalls actually gave a tangible value back. Now, media has become ingenious at being able to simulate awe-inspiring value. So media creates all sorts of amazing things that are truly awe-inspiring. But oftentimes it's not actually delivering that spiritual content that is delivered through looking at the stars or watching a sunset. So you have things like these different shows or these different blockbuster movies that like you sit in there and it's riveting and it like totally awe-inspires you and blows your mind. But then the storyline and a lot of the concepts and a lot of the beliefs that are being delivered through it are actually ones that don't really help us. Maybe they're perpetuating a negative program or a negative story, or maybe they're perpetuating negative stereotypes, or, it could just be destructive in so many different ways. So, speaking as a content creator and then speaking to other content creators, it's important that, if we're going to start using these tricks, if we're going to use these, the abilities that we have, which is really like magical abilities, we have to make sure we're actually delivering tangible value. Because if we're not, we're basically, it's like a Trojan horse. We're using this amazing thing that draws everyone's attention, but then what we're sending through in the Trojan horse is like poison. It's like putting sugar in the poison, basically. You're attracted to it because of the sugar, but you're taking in poison. And this is the issue with, the market. This is the issue with media in general, is we've become so good at simulating value that people are selling simulations all over the place. And then humanity has lost the ability to tell the difference between simulated value and actual value. So people are actually craving the simulation. And you have things like social media that was completely designed to play on these evolutionary attractors. Everything's buzzing and moving and drawing your attention to it, and people become severely addicted to these social media platforms, but oftentimes they're not getting very much actual tangible value out of it, and it becomes highly destructive. It lowers people's attention span, it perpetuates negative thoughts, negative beliefs, and actually is the cause of a lot of depression, and then, as a result, even suicide. So these are things that we need to take into consideration, and we have to work on it on both ends. So on the consumer side, we have to be able to clearly discern what it is that we're being attracted to, and be able to make the distinction between simulated things that we're attracted to, simulated values, and tangible values, so that we can start monetarily incentivizing those tangible values so that there's more incentive in the market to create those kinds of things, and there's less incentive to create simulated values. Because the more that we incentivize simulated values, the more kind of like the plague is being spread. Now on the producer side, or the content creator side, we need to understand how to use these evolutionary attractors and concentrate them so that we can draw the attention of people, but make sure that we're delivering tangible value. And the more that we can actually deliver the tangible value and have those concentrated evolutionary attractors, the more people will then be able to start discerning the difference between tangible value and non-tangible value, or actual value and simulated value. Because when you get something that has tangible value, that has real value, and you are attracted to it because of these concentration of evolutionary attractors, then that's going to stand out against something that's hollow, that doesn't actually, that only has the attractors but doesn't have the value, right? So it's important for us to actually understand how to do both, and then use these magical capacities of being able to draw people's attention and pull people in to actually give true gifts, to give true tangible value to humanity. So as you go through the world, start being able to discern, what is it that I'm attracted to? And you'll notice that there are these things that are bright and colorful and like amazing, and you feel really attracted to them, but feel in deeper, feel in behind that. See, is this really leaving me off better than I was before I started engaging with it? And when you walk away from it, like feel into your energy field, feel like, what did that just do to me? And see if it uplifted you or not. This is a good way to be able to discern if there's actual value involved in it. So this is Patrick Hayes. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you want to be notified the next time I release a video, go ahead and hit that bell button, and you'll get a notification whenever I release a video. And I'm super stoked to share more with you, and I'll talk to you next time. One love.